You've probably heard his name in conjunction with the term like racist or hater or bigot or something like that.
Anybody that hates Israel, that hates a Jew living in Judea, is going to have a formidable foe in Itamar Ben Gvir, and I like that about him.
Hello and welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Well, if you're American and you're probably thinking about American midterm elections that are happening next week, well, guess what? Israel is having elections on November 1st. So we're going to give you the breakdown about the Israeli elections, what's happening, who might get voted in, who different people stand for. You're going to get the whole scoop today. We want to encourage you, even as the so much politics going on in the United States, always keep your eyes on Israel. It's good to know what's happening here. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, make sure you get the conversation going down below, and give us a like on social media, especially Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at The Israel Guys. So we just planted trees today. We just finished the grape harvest today, so lots going on here in the land of Israel. If you want to get involved in a volunteer program, go to serveisrael.com. If you want to sponsor a tree, go to greeningisrael.com. Lots of stuff happening here in the land of Israel. We're a part of all of it, but we want to dive into elections. This will be Israel's 5th election cycle in about 3 years. They keep having elections, not really able to form a government, or they form a government and it falls apart. This last time, the government actually lasted for a while, but it fell apart a few months ago. And right now, Yair Lapid, who's the leader of the center-left Yesh Atid party, he's basically an interim prime minister, became prime minister kind of by default. So, of course, he's hoping to be elected prime minister again, but I kind of think that is not likely, as Bibi Netanyahu is determined to return to power, and he's doing his best statesman's job for that. So we're going to get into all the details, but first I want to play a special video for you guys. We shot it. It's all about our tree planting here, that we're putting trees in the ground right now. Put several hundred in the ground just yesterday. We got some amazing footage, so we're going to check out that video right now.
The Shemitah is over, and we are hitting the ground running hard. We've got 40 volunteers here in Israel right now. We've already got hundreds of trees in the ground. The Greening Israel 2022 is off to a really good start. Another 3,000 trees, and we'll have a wrap here. You know, I'm so excited about this project. There's really none other like it that I've ever seen. It's so complex, so many details. We're really putting a lot of energy into the forest success. Every tree gets so much care. First off, we have a team going and marking the specific areas that need to be planted. Afterwards, we're going to come through. We bring this big auger. This machine rolls in, and we dig those holes. This big auger blade kicks up enough dirt. We're cutting up a big area. After they dig that hole, we'll get somebody to pre-water the hole. The next team comes in and actually plants the trees. After those trees are planted, we come along with the water box system. We've got this incredible system of water box goes in over the top of that tree. We'll put this water box on. This water will then, after we fill it up, we have a tanker truck here that water will be pumped into these boxes. That's the last time we touch that box. That tree will be on its own with this water system for a full year until that tree reaches maturity and able to survive on its own. After that box gets put in and the water is pumped into it, we have a team building not only these boxes, but building cages up on top. We've got a whole crew going on up there. These cages will go on to protect the tree from any kind of predator that would want to eat our trees down. So that protection cage goes in, rocks go around it. So teams are on all of these different jobs all throughout the project here. We're so incredibly excited about this project, but we need you to finish it. We have 450 more trees to reach our 3,000 tree goal. We're almost there, guys. We have teams here literally planting the trees, and we need you to finish us off. We just have 450 more to go. So go to greeningisrael.com and join our restoration process here in the land of Israel, putting these roots in the ground. Thank you. All right, guys, we love what's going on out there in the field. We love planting and greening the land of Israel. Thanks for being a part of that wherever you are. Back to the politics here in Israel. We have Haaretz, the leftist side of Israel, is getting very scared right now, and they're saying things like, quote, destruction of Israeli democracy is going to happen, right? If MK, currently, Benjamin Netanyahu returns to government with a right-wing coalition. They're getting really scared about this. What's going to happen? And it sure looks like right now, former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is at the lead with his party, but still, according to polls, unable to put a government together. We're going to talk a lot about this.
Well, some polls are actually pretty favorable for him.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing we've learned.
Yeah, there's some small things a lot of people don't realize that we'll get into as to why
Right.
he might actually have a good chance. Just to clarify, Haaretz is kind of like when the New York Times says something in the United States. So it's like you pay them attention, but you also kind of ignore them because nobody actually really pays any attention to them. So
Netanyahu's got quite of a campaign ahead of him. He's quote from former Prime Minister. He says, "Under Lapid, we've had a terrible explosion in cost of living, an enormous rise of terrorist attacks, a decline in Israel's ability to withstand threats from Iran and Hezbollah." Well, all of that is true, and this gives Benjamin Netanyahu a major run-up for people that have their head out of the sand and see what's happening in Israel. All of the problems that we're facing around Israel right now can be directly connected to a weak government. The enemies of Israel are taking advantage of the weakness is felt in Israel, and the former Prime Minister of Israel is pretty straightforward running when you have this kind of things to talk about. So that's happening.
I want to have one word about Bibi Netanyahu. Sure. This is kind of my opinion on Bibi Netanyahu. He's a really strong right-wing politician. I think he's been in prime minister like 12 years, maybe 13 years altogether at different points. They don't really have term limits here, so it's a little different. But he's had several terms as prime minister, and he's pretty much following his usual tactics as far as campaigning to get elected again, which is basically means he's super strong, super good at campaigning, making great speeches, social media, his PR, everything, but which basically means that he's campaigning really hard. He slams all the opponents that he doesn't like and he doesn't want to work with, just doesn't mind attacking them at all. He cozies up to the people that he wants to work with, and he makes very big promises of what he's going to do after he gets elected. Typically, right before an election, Bibi Netanyahu makes big promises. He'll come off very right-wing, like we're going to apply sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, which I'm not saying he won't, because I believe that there's a good chance he would do it if he was given the right set of circumstances. But he promises a lot of things and usually gets elected, and some of those promises don't always come to pass. I would say he's a good, strong right-wing leader. There are other leaders that are much more right-wing than him. But if he was given the right circumstances, if he has the right people to work with, he could accomplish some really amazing things. So he's a great, great leader. But I want to talk about a firebrand. Yeah. Somewhat new on the scene, Itamar Ben Gvir. If you know Israel at all, if you're following Israel at all, you may have heard this name, and you've probably heard his name in conjunction with the term like racist or hater or bigot or something like that, because he's being branded, not just in Israel. There's US Congressmen that are actually branding him as a racist. He's a current member of Knesset, Itamar Ben Gvir. He's part of a right-wing party that is part of a technical bloc called Religious Zionism with Bezalel Smotrich, and he's actually polling really, really, really well. Yeah. He's super popular, especially with young people. But everybody's calling him as a racist, so I want to just clarify, because I've seen people on both sides of the aisle. I've seen secular, religious, right-wing, left-wing people calling him out as a racist, a bigot, a hater. So let's just talk about, set the record straight, who is Itamar Ben Gvir? Because if you're following Israeli elections at all, then you either have heard this name or you will hear this name. So you need to know who is Ben Gvir. To clarify, he is not anti-Arab.
Yeah.
He's anti-Arabs who are anti-Israel. In other words, he's against unpatriotic Israeli citizens and residents. Let's just quote his own words. In an interview to JNS, the Jewish News Syndicate, Ben Gvir said, quote, "Our Tanakh, which is the Bible, teaches us that we are from here. We have come back to our land. I'm not a racist. I do not hate Arabs. I hate terrorists." Okay? Yeah. So he's not and he's also said, I'm not anti-women. I'm not anti-anybody else. I'm just anti-bad people, basically. He's even in the block that he's part of, they have like at least 4 women that are that are on their slate for seats in the Knesset. Most of the accusations against him stem from his teenage years when he supported Meir Kahane, who's another very radical name that you may have heard of, Meir Kahane headed a party in the Knesset that was later banned from the Knesset because of his anti-Arab positions. Because of this, Ben Gvir he was not allowed to serve in the IDF. But today, he was a little more radical when he's younger. He even says that he's more mature now. But I don't actually know of anything that he did or anything like that was crazy when he was younger. He was zealous, more zealous when he was younger, I guess. Today's matured somewhat. He's a very staunch Zionist. We've actually met him, been around him and close to him. Every time I've seen him, he's like swarmed. He is super, super, super popular. He's in support of a strong Jewish nation with a big emphasis on national security, standing against jihad. Part of his platform calls for strength against terrorism, jihadism. He wants to loosen the IDF's rules of engagement so that they can properly deal with violence and terrorism. He is an advocate for terrorists to be expelled from Israel. I'm kind of on the same page with that. I think if you are against your own country, you should be expelled. And he's for the death penalty for those convicted of murder. Another quote from Ben Gvir to JNS. He said, quote, "Nationalism stands for God. It stands for patriotism. It stands for particularism. And it stands for strong defense. These are things that the Israeli left wing is against. They are against a religious biblical outlook. They're against nationalism, and they're against real defense." And as you were talking about, Bibi Netanyahu he's been a little interesting in regards to Ben Gvir, but he's actually probably going to include him in his government, is totally going to be willing to work with him and make him a minister in the next government. Because as we'll go through the numbers, but the national religious Zionist party is set to potentially be the third largest party in the Knesset.
Yeah.
So Itamar Ben Gvir, really a good guy. He's fiery. He's radical. He doesn't mind doing and saying exactly what needs to be done, but he stands for some good principles.
You know, the thing I like about Itamar Ben Gvir is that he's very just loves Israel unabashedly. He says there should be a strong Israel. Israel should be strong against the haters of Israel. And you know what? Leftists and people that hate Israel really hate him. And so that should be your first cue that we've got a good guy on the block when he's going to be strong to the haters. He's going to be a strong Israel is a passion of his. And unfortunately, Arabs that say they make up these claims that he's a racist and he hates Arabs. Well, the fact that anybody that hates Israel, that hates a Jew living in Judea, is going to have a formidable foe in Itamar Ben Gvir, and I like that about him. And you should too. If you're pro a strong nation of Israel, you should be pro Itamar Ben Gvir. I don't care all the other stuff. The world does a really horrible job at beating down good people, and that's what the world is all about. If you read in any kind of news article all around the world, especially American news that is hitting the globe, you're going to see a lot of bashes against Itamar Ben Gvir like he's a terrorist and whatever. No, absolutely not. It's unacceptable language being used for such a all-star in making Israel strong. And this is what he's doing, and we have to stand with Israel. We're here to see a strong Israel. It's very possible that he's going to make it into a minister position. The elections are not here yet, but surmising he's requesting that
he wants to be public security, I think, or
public security,
the security minister.
Security minister,
along with Bezalel Smotrich and probably another member from the same party, which is really good news for Judea and Samaria, because all of these guys are 100% pro Judea and Samaria. Yeah.
You know, the fascinating thing is I want to pick this up real quickly, because this is unacceptable in my book, and this is what's happening on the political scene across America, which is supposed to be pro-Israel, but it's absolutely not right now. When Israel has a pro-Israel person in the government, meaning they're not pro two-state, they're not pro giving up their own land to an anti-Israel regime, Islamic regime called Hamas and Fatah and Hezbollah. When this is not what they're doing. So we have Itamar Ben Gvir here, who's creating a really strong front on the other side, and the world hates that. And now we have, but on the other side, so back up a little bit, we have the Muslim Brotherhood. The government that was formed in the last elections pulled in a Muslim Brotherhood supporting group, and yet the world clapped at that. America clapped at that. Everybody said, yes, this is a sign of bringing everybody together. This is, such a beautiful thing that Israel is able to be such a state that just brings everybody in love together. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood is not a lovely group of folks. They are dead set on killing every Jew in Israel and clearing them out of here and creating an Arab state, not just in Judea and Samaria, that West Bank so-called thing. They want to clear the whole state out and create a state of Palestine on the exact borders of Israel. Now, Itamar Ben Gvir comes to the stage, and the world goes nuts against him because he's pro-Israel.
Well, he stands for things like terrorists should be expelled.
Yes.
People that hate the country, that are anti-Israel should not be able to live here. Just basic stuff, right?
So literally, to make this clear, terrorists represented in Muslim Brotherhood are elected into the Israeli Knesset, because the Israeli Knesset is a totally open thing. That's, if there's people that support the Muslim Brotherhood in Israel, with the Arab community in Israel supports Muslim Brotherhood, go figure why that's allowed. I tell you, that's under democracy. Democracy. Let me tell you, that is stupidity. You don't let your enemies, they blow down the Twin Towers in America and we're like, yes, we should have they need to all come here to. No, absolutely not. They're called terrorists. They should have no right to vote. And that's what Itamar Ben Gvir is saying. These guys have no right to be a part of this country. If they're hostile to our country and they want to throw us down and kill us all, they should be expelled from this country this very minute. That's what he's saying, and that's what the world is hating him for and saying he's a racist. You're now a racist if you want to live as a Jew. That's literally what's going down here. So that's unacceptable. I will not tolerate to hear anything like that. It's ridiculous that people would say this. No, it's not racist to live in the land of Israel as a Jew. You can live proudly in the land of Israel as a Jew, and you can run a Knesset and be strong against the Muslim Brotherhood running in the Israeli government. This should be a no-brainer. And I have no idea why a leftist Israeli government right now would even allow such a person to step on a podium inside the Knesset, but that's literally what's happening, and the world loves it. They're applauding it. Somebody pro-Israel like Itamar Ben Gvir comes on the stage, and they're saying he's a terrorist, he's whatever. Absolutely backwards, but this is literally what's happening.
So I want to give you guys, we've talked about two of the the big players from the parties here. Two more big players. So there's like four big parties that are going to come out of this election. You've got Likud, Bibi Netanyahu. You have the religious Zionism, Itamar Ben Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. And then you have blue and white with current defense minister Benny Gantz. And you have Yair Lapid, who is the interim prime minister, who's head of the Yesh Atid party. So Benny Gantz, just so you know, under his watch, here's some things that have happened. According to the Shin Bet, this is from a J-Post article. According to the Shin Bet, which is Israel's security agency, September 2022 was marked by 254 terrorist attacks, 2 fatalities, and 14 injured. Just in the first half of 2022, there was 3,702 documented terrorist attacks in Judea and Samaria. And this is basically the job of the defense minister of Israel is to keep things quiet, right? And what has the current defense minister been doing? Not really anything. It seems like he's doing a lot of PR, a lot of meeting with other world leaders, other countries, a lot of talks, negotiations, but not so much standing strong as the actual defense minister of Israel. Hasn't said a word about the recent terrorism. So Benny Gantz, leader of the Blue and White Party, he is the one competing for third largest party in these elections. Looks like he's probably going to be fourth largest, might not even be a part of the government, because he said that he will under no conditions sit in a coalition with Bibi Netanyahu. That leaves the last person, Yair Lapid, who's probably going to have the second largest party, but probably does not have a chance of being prime minister. He's currently what do they call him?
Interim.
Yeah,
Prime
but
Minister.
they call him like
Caretaker.
The caretaker. Yeah, Prime Minister. That's what they call him.
You know, something on Benny Gantz real quick, Luke, before we move is people here, when the defense ministry abandoned 700,000 people living in Judea and Samaria, and that's really what the feeling on the street is here. We live here. We're part of this. When they feel abandoned and this number of terror attacks is happening, it's no joke. It's nothing hidden. He's pro two-state solution.
Right.
He's pro two-state. He's pro creating an Arab state. So on his watch, he is de facto creating, without anyone's permission, a Palestinian state reality here on the grounds, allowing such terrorism to happen in Judea and Samaria, not supporting the communities here. These are Israeli citizens who are in full citizens of Israel, They have rights to the full security of the state of Israel,
Right.
and yet they're being abandoned by the defense minister himself. They're abandoning the communities. 700,000 Israelis living inside Judea and Samaria are abandoned by the minister of defense to this barbaric Islamic jihad that's happening inside the area. Now, these 700,000, they're not weak. They're here. They've seen worse, and so they're not going anywhere. These Israeli citizens are staying put, and they're here because this is the homeland. You can't take Jews out of Judea. It's just not going to happen. They're there. And so the defense minister of Israel, Israelis are feeling abandoned by him, and this is a horrible thing. Right before elections, it should be called out. 700,000 Israelis need protection in Judea and Samaria.
I think what's going to happen is he's going to feel it in the polls or in the ballot box because people aren't going to vote for him because he hasn't stood by them. Same with Yair Lapid. I'm a little bit surprised. He hasn't really built a very good reputation for himself. The most obvious and biggest one being the Israeli-Lebanon maritime trade agreement, where he basically just gave all of Israel's natural gas away, right?
Yeah, literally just signed a few minutes ago.
Mediterranean. He just capitulated. It's something, it was supposed to be a negotiation to work out a trade agreement. It's been going on for like more than 10 years. Yair Lapid comes along in like a matter of weeks. He's basically like, okay, just, you can have it all. Yeah. We'll just give it away and just sign
again,
on
Luke,
the dotted
this
line.
is not with Lebanon. This is with Hezbollah. You got to make the difference. Hezbollah is in charge of Lebanon.
Israel doesn't have official, like Lebanon doesn't recognize Israel. They're not like friends. They're not mortal enemies, but they're not friends either. They got rockets. Lebanon has rockets pointed at Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's give a quick overview. What is going on with the elections and what are the polls saying? Okay, here's what the main things you need to know. Likud, led by Bibi Netanyahu, is right of center, right wing, not the farthest right. And they're polling to be the largest party in Knesset with probably more than 30 seats. Yesh Atid, led by interim Prime Minister Yair Lapid, is a center-left party and is polling to be the second largest party, probably upper 20s, maybe close to 30 seats. And then number 3 is probably going to be the religious Zionist bloc made up of Bezalel Smotrich, Itamar Ben Gvir, and they're very strong, probably the most right-wing, strongest parties, and they're polling to have like 14 seats, being the third largest party in the Knesset, which is amazing, especially for the biblical heartland. Benny Gantz, head of the Blue and White Party, a center-left party, and is polling to be the fourth largest party. And then we got a couple go all the way down to the bottom. Some people, I've actually heard, read Meretz, far left party. They might not even cross the threshold. The Balad party, the Arab parties used to have a technical block so that they could get more seats. They've separated, which means that some of the little ones might not even make it. So the Balad Arab party, far left obviously, might not even cross the threshold to be in the Knesset. And who else is riding the line? Ayelet Shaked, who took a big hit from the last government, and she has decided to stick it out. Naftali Bennett resigned from politics. Ayelet Shaked is staying in, head of the Yamina Jewish Home Party. She's hoping to cross the threshold, so it's going to be really tight for her. But Josh, what does this mean for the outcome?
Well, there's a really fascinating thing happening in Israel. Quickly, as we're about to close out, we have there's literally 5 seats. There's 120 seats in the Israeli Knesset that are going to be filled with all the people of Israel voting different as Luke just mentioned, all the different parties. There's exciting news is that made up of the new voters, 18-year-olds that are going to be going to the polls just now for the first times, makes up 5 of those seats. 5 of the 120 seats that will be filled with votes.
You're saying the number of citizens that are going to vote now that couldn't vote in the last election
are going to make up 5 seats.
Wow, that's significant.
It's a significant amount. And what's really significant is how in the world, what's this Itamar Ben Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, the Israeli right, how is it growing so much? Right there, you've got it. Israelis from the age of 18 to 25 vote majority right wing, at least conservative. And noting, we'll just take this fact, only 10% of those 18 to 25-year-olds vote left. There you go. You've got it. Israel is going in the right direction. They're conservative, patriotic young people in the land of Israel that want to see a strong Israel, and they're finding that in no other than Itamar Ben Gvir and the strong right here in Israel. And that's why you're seeing it grow, and it's not going to stop, folks. And the leftist world is getting all fired up about it, and they're making up a lot of garbage. Don't listen to it. Stop it. Yep. This is an amazing thing that's happening here in Israel. The young people are fired up, and they're zealous. You know, the same thing's happening in America. People think loving America is a horrible thing nowadays. He's like, what? Where did patriotism go? Well, we're having that same fight in America. They're having the same fight here. Whatever you do, don't jump on the bandwagon that says being a strong, patriotic person's bad. No, that's woke and it's horrible. No, Israelis being strong in their land is a good thing, and Israeli young people are doing it. You got to be proud of them. That's what's happening on the ground here.
So what's happening next week? To form a coalition, a governing government, a coalition government, you have to have at least 61 seats. So the biggest parties, they get a shot. They try to form a coalition by putting multiple parties together. So that's what you're going to see next week. Probably first by Bibi Netanyahu. He'll be pulling other parties in. And if he's successful, we'll get a right-wing government. So make sure you keep your eye on that. We have to wrap up, but we have good news to end out the show today. Josh, if you had to guess, how many Jews would you say are living on this side of the Green Line in what the world calls the West Bank?
No guess involved. We're now 500,000 strong, not including the East Jerusalem block.
That's what I was going to say, because that's Judea and Samaria.
Just
Judea and Samaria alone just crossed 500,000 residents, 500,270 people as of Rosh Hashanah this year. That doesn't include 350,000 Jewish residents of East Jerusalem. So when people talk about the West Bank, how many people are living here? 850,000 people.
Yeah.
Why is that important? Why? Because they're never going to create a Palestinian state here.
Not happening.
You're not going to drag almost 1 million people out of the Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. In the words of the report from the report where I got these numbers from, which was officially reported to the Ministry of Interior, quote, this is the creation of an irreversible on-the-ground reality, the fact that the next 500,000 will be reached at an increasingly faster rate, and the growing awareness of the importance of the struggle for the critical area C. You know, they kicked 8,000 Jews out of the Gaza Strip in 2005.
Yeah.
They are never, ever, ever going to kick 850,000 Jews out of Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. Yes, there's still a fight. Yes, we have to stand strong. Yes, it's still happening, but the irreversible reality, the facts on the ground are that the Jewish people are standing strong in their biblical heartland, just like the prophets foretold 3,000 years ago. And amazingly, we can stand with them in that. So, in conclusion, guys, Israeli elections are happening next week. I know American elections are also happening really soon too. But I would encourage you, don't forget to keep your eyes on Israel. Maybe next week we can cover the American elections and like who the politicians running, which ones are pro-Israel and how that's going to affect Israel. Things are looking really good for the right-wing parties here in Israel, but it's not guaranteed. It's very close, just like it's going to be in some of the U.S. races. So don't forget, keep your eyes on Israel. Guys, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Get the conversation going down below. What do you think about the people we talked about today? And which of the U.S. politicians do you think are going to stand with Israel and are going to be best for America and Israel? Guys, remember to tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening in the land of Israel. We're here every single week with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.